Hi, this is George Lees again. I'm sorry that I'm trying to keep my humorous side, it's ever so difficult. Yeah, in the last couple of days I've revealed the massive frauds of the Royal Institute for International Affairs, run by Chatham House as a secret society, totally stealing from the whole world. Yeah, and we've revealed for you the absolute abomination that is the media cover-ups of the Bellamy people on the Rothschild interlocks, the presence of people called Adele and Gascoigne on all of those massive scams. They're absolutely ruthless. They have given themselves the capacity to print money and to release massive amounts of stock holdings and shareholdings in worthless companies that just extend for the whole world the toxic debt pools that we are now cast into. None of anything that democracy does is funded by any democratic institution, and it is tragic. I've tried to portray it as humorous, yeah, because it's very difficult to keep your sanity if you're not prepared to have a laugh at it. It is absolutely lethal for the global economy, and it is lethal for the prospects of all of the world's children. Okay, and when they turn it into jokes about religion and the Virgin Maria, that's the Royal Institute for International Affairs with the word Ma at the front, it becomes quite sickening. Okay, so I'm sorry that I've adopted that jocular tone. I've now dropped it and I'm going to get real, and tonight I'm going to talk about the auditors that regulate this system and police it in inverted commas. Okay, so the name that has intrigued me for several months, because of the massive jokes that they share about the religious fraud, is the auditor KPMG. Now you know, because you've listened to my videos in the past, that religion is a massive geopolitical fraud. It's there to control the minds of the masses, and it does that really effectively. Okay, and when you see the initials KP, or the use of the word pi, or the interdigitation of the word piso into a longer word, yeah, or a place name, or an anatomical descriptor for anywhere on the human body, or at the foot of a willow tree, then you know that it is a piss take, and it is really serious, because usually they laugh at genocides and massive financial crimes against the world's people under taxpayers. Okay, and that then gets translated really simply into war and into war crimes, which are covered up entirely by popular culture, by the movie industry and the quisling media. Okay, so today I'm going to do a little profiling of KPMG. I've not highlighted any of this, I'm just going to show you what they openly publish. Okay, and I fear that the KP will be a joke about Calpurnius Piso and the Mother of God. Yeah, do you get it? So Calpurnius Piso is the author of the New Testament, and we've told you about the intermarriages and the birthing of people into the Roman Emperor dynasty, and that takes in the Miriam joke, where the M and M is inserted at the end of the Aryan word, and all of a sudden you've got the mother and father of the infant that becomes the leader of the system. It is absolutely ruthless. I forget the name of the Roman emperor that was introduced into that. I think it was Caligula, but I may be wrong on that. But it's a massive joke for the religious inventors that they can have the parentage of the one true God as humans and the deviant figureheads behind the false religions. And when you see what the companies are allowed to do under the eyes of the big four auditors, of which KPMG is one, it becomes absolutely sickening. Okay, so it's a Swiss cooperative. Yeah, I must not giggle. It is really serious. It is desperately sad that they are prepared to stoop this low. It's described as an industry in professional services. It's founded in 1987 by the merger of Pete Marwick International, the word Ma again, and Mary's Wick. Yeah, everything is a joke for them. International and Kleinveld and Main Gordeler. Its headquarters are in Orange, Netherlands. Okay, Amstelveen. Its area served is worldwide. Its key person was at this stage, and this would be published this year I think, John B. Weimeyer, Chairman. Services, assurance, tax advisory, consulting, financial advisory, actuarial and legal. Revenue only 26.5 billion declared, and that's in brackets for 2015. I don't know whether or not that's the published accounts for 2014, but there is a reference to that on the Wikipedia web page. Okay, it's got a website, www.kpmg.com, and the history of it, I think we can skip that. I'm just going to show you the massive infrastructure and the Babylonian nature of what they do and the buildings that they work from. Okay, so there we have the KPMG head office in Amstelveen, the Netherlands. A relatively cosy little place, a bit like a block of flats in Finchley. Here we have something much more grandiose. Headquarters of KPMG LLP, the United States based member firm of KPMG International, at 345 Park Avenue, New York City. And there is the logo for the 1870s Pete Marwick affiliation. Yeah, so Marwick, the Mary, yeah, the mayor in the Devil's Advocate movie. The firm's history dates back to 1870 when William Barclay Pete. Do you get it? It's not a nascent organisation at all. It's just a subsidiary of the financial dynasties that run the world for all of human history. Okay? It took over as William Barclay Pete & Co. in 1891, and in 1879 was the French Revolution and the American Wars of Independence. All of that is going on around the same time. Accountancy firm Thomson McClintock opened an office in Glasgow. Meanwhile, in 1917, Piet Klingenveld opened his accounting firm in Amsterdam. Later he merged with the Crays in Hof to form Klingenveld, Krayenhof and Co. Okay, that's the Cray twins and the creche references in the Old Testament in the Bible. In 1925, William Barclay Pete & Co. and Marwick Mitchell, the McHale name, the person who's the right up the food chain in the Nixon electoral frauds, yeah, a firm founded by James Marwick and Roger Mitchell in New York, merged to form Pete Marwick Mitchell and Company, later known simply as Pete Marwick. Okay, recent history. In 2001, KPMG divested its US consulting firm through an initial public offering of KPMG Consulting Inc., which is now called Bearing Point Inc. Okay, so Barings is the bank that was crashed because of an accident in financial services. Yeah, and Barings is also, the name Bear is associated with the Rothschilds when they're still in Eastern Europe, in the Ukrainian region, and the bears that work for Fox News are testimony to that. Okay, nobody keeps any of that a secret. The UK and Dutch consulting arms were sold to Atos in origin in 2002. In 2003, KPMG divested itself of its legal arm K-Legal, and KPMG LLP sold its dispute advisory services to FTI Consulting. Okay, KPMG's member firm in the United Kingdom, Germany, Switzerland and Liechtenstein merged to form KPMG Europe LLP. Now that's out with the British jurisdiction, but I've got some horrific things to show you about what happens within the British jurisdiction. These member firms were followed by Spain, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, CIS, Azerbaijan, Russia, Ukraine, Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Armenia and Georgia. Yeah, all of the countries that get brutalised by us, all of the countries that are in the Silk Road, and all of the way through the narcotics chain that we talk about again and again, into the vast tracts of land in Russia and in Georgia. Okay, Turkey, Norway and Saudi Arabia. They appointed joint chairman John Griffith Jones and Ralph Nonamaker. The new headquarters were located in Frankfurt, Germany, where the Rothschilds emerged from the very poor ghettos. Okay, each national KPMG firm is an independent legal entity and is a member of KPMG International Cooperative. You'll see in a few minutes that their directors in Britain are just lists of numbers. A Swiss entity registered in the Swiss canton of Zug. Okay, KPMG changed its legal structure from a Swiss Verein to a cooperative under Swiss law in 2003, just before Tony Blair took us into Iraq. The structure in which the cooperative provides support services only to the member firms is similar to other professional services network. The member firms provide the services to client. The purpose is to limit the liability of each independent member. Yeah, so it's lawless, it's beyond regulation. Nobody can do anything about all of the scams that they run. Michael Andrew, previously chairman of KPMG in Australia, assumed the global chairmanship in September 2011 and is based in Hong Kong. This is the first time a Big Four accounting organisation has had its global leader based in Asia Pacific. That is the Hong Kong where Lord Patton was the Governor General. Okay, on February 27, 2014, it was announced that Michael Andrew, that's Michael the Jewish angel and the non-existent St Andrew, was retiring as chairman due to illness. It's catching up with them all, and that he would be succeeded by John B. Wehrmeyer, a role he would perform alongside continuing as chairman and chief executive of KPMG's US firm Wehrmeyer, which is based in New York City. It's the Empire State. The 34-story KPMG Tower in the Maisonneuve Boulevard in Montreal. The French connection. Okay, KPMG is organised into sorry, I've not to snigger. Yeah, my son tells me in the videos he watched about students being impoverished by our government and the Rothschild Bank that the sniggering makes me sound like an imbecile. I must stop that, and I agree with him when I watch it, and I try not to look back in anger, but it is ever so difficult. because my son is already thousands of pounds into debt in this system. KPMG is organised into the following three service lines. The 2004-14 revenue shares are listed in brackets. Audit 42%, advisory 37%, tax 21%, as if. Tax arrangements relating to tax avoidance and multinational corporations and Luxembourg, which were negotiated by KPMG, became public in 2014 in the so-called Luxembourg leaks, as if they might have something that they might be ashamed of over the course of time. Right then, so we've seen the Montreal one. There's the KPMG Tower at 355 South Grand Avenue in Los Angeles. That's LA, the Angels, yeah, where every one of the saints' names is a joke about the Christianity fake-up. KPMG was the preferred employer among the big four accounting firms, according to collegegrad.com. That's the talking up your prospects for the postgrads as you recruit them and then impose the massive fees on them. It was also ranked number 4 on the list of 50 best places to launch a career in 2009, according to Businessweek. That's the year after the reset in America and what we now call the global financial crash. Okay, it's in the big four auditors. It was ranked 4 in the list of the 50 best places to launch a career in fraud. It does not say that in the transcript. In 2008, KPMG in the UK was named the best big company to work for by the Times. This was the 4th consecutive year that KPMG has made the top 3. In 2009, KPMG introduced in the UK a program known as Flexible Futures. This allowed the staff to volunteer to give the firm the option to either send them on a sabbatical at 30% pay for up to 12 weeks. So they're prepared to steal from their staff as well, or to reduce their working hours to 4 days a week. The fiscal crisis and we're short of funds concept. The option remains open to the firm until October 2010. This facility has been invoked by the firm in some departments. Yeah, they are massive frauds. They are massive crimes against the people. And they pretend to their own people that work as insiders that they need to be sacrificed as well. In October 2010, for the 8th year in a row, KPMG was named one of Canada's top 100 employees. Okay, so the top of the hit parade for fraud, and was featured in Maclean's News magazine. It also named one of Greater Toronto's top employers. That's where you're not allowed to publish the details of the frauds that they engage in anymore, which was announced by the Toronto Star. That could be a communist affiliation over the course of time to divert attention from their massive financial crimes. In early 2012, it was reported that KPMG has about 9,000 staff in mainland China and Hong Kong and 11,000 in the UK. Its global deputy chairman predicted that headcount in China will overtake that of the UK by the end of 2013. And we've already published the accounts for 2015, but we're still speculating on the prospects in the hit parade. Okay, right. So, in 2003, KPMG agreed to pay 125 million and 75 million to settle lawsuits stemming from the firm's audits of Rite Aid and Oxford Health Plans, Inc. Remuneration of those given bad advice by their financial advisors. We talk about it a lot now, but tonight I'm not giggling at all. In 2004, KPMG agreed to pay 115 million to settle lawsuits stemming from the collapse of the software company Lernout and Hospi Speech Products NV. Remember that in 1945 we had speech products that were capable of translating the Nuremberg inquests, but nobody gets a release of the transcript in their own language. You just have to guess what is happening, and what is happening is that the innocents get it in the neck and the villains get released to repeatedly offend in other continents. In early 2005, tax shelter frauds, Fannie Mae sued KPMG for malpractice for approving years of erroneous financial statements. That is the crashed real estate company. There's a lot of statements about what happened in 2005. I will just skip them. You can go to the Wikipedia profile yourselves. KPMG offices at 150 West Jefferson in Detroit, another Babylonian tower. KPMG building in Kamloops, British Columbia. Vast tracts of land in Canada. KPMG office in the Square building at Frankfurt Airport. Isn't it lovely? It's kind of like a rocket ship. Like the Star Trek concept. KPMG in Leeds in West Yorkshire, where they have the fires when the pressure is on their frauds. KPMG was accused of, in 2008, enabling improper and imprudent practices at New Century Financial, and KPMG agreed to pay $8 million to settle suits from Xerox, the photocopier jokers. It was announced in December that two of Tremont's group's Rise Select funds had $2.37 billion invested with the Madoff Ponzi scheme. All of the names are really classy in financial services, frauds and economic grand larceny. All of them are at the take and totally condoned and supervised by these companies. 2011, in August, KPMG conducted due diligence work on Hewlett Packard's $11.1 billion acquisition of the British software company Autonomy. That is the Hewlett Packard that had the translation facilities in the Nuremberg courtrooms in 1945. And when I went to university and I began to run my own lab, we had a Hewlett Packard computer that filled almost the whole of the lab. Yeah, they were huge, and those are the things that became the size of my tiny little camera that I'm holding in my left hand. Yeah, and that then becomes the IT that fails to take us back to the moon since 1968 or thereabouts. Okay, in November 2012, HP announced an $8.8 billion write-off due to serious accounting improprieties committed by Autonomy. According to an independent panel formed to investigate irregular payments made by Olympus, KPMG's affiliate in Japan failed in its duty to uncover fraud. 2013, in April, Scott London, a former KPMG LLP partner in charge of the US Los Angeles based Southwest audit practice, admitted passing on stock tips about clients, including Herbalife, Skechers and other companies, to his friend Brian Shaw, a California jewellery store owner. In return, Shaw gave London £60,000 as well as gifts that included a Rolex watch. I ran out of cash this morning, so I took my old watch, which is broken, just in case I needed to give them collateral so I could have a coffee at the Church of Scotland. On May the 6th, Shaw agreed to plead guilty to one count of conspiracy to commit securities frauds. He also agreed to pay around $1.3 million in restitution. Consider those fees and what were given to the Barclays boss Bob Diamond as he fled with the take from Barclays, and remember that Barclays is in the name of this original company right at the beginning of its era around the time of the American Revolutionary Wars. This scandal led to KPMG to resign as auditor for 2 companies. Stringent manoeuvres on the basis of their morality. The Swedish member firm Sponsorship was main sponsor for Swedish biathlete Magdalena Forsberg. The Fosbury flop and the religious jokes coming into it again. 6 times world champion and twice Olympic medalist, Forsberg was working as a tax consultant at the KPMG Sundsvall office, parallel with her athletic career. In February 2008, Phil Mickelson, ranked one of the best golfers in the world, signed a 3-year global sponsorship deal with KPMG. As part of the agreement, Mickelson was to wear the KPMG logo on his headwear during all golf-related appearances. He's the man. That's what they used to shout at Calpurnius Piso. He's the man. You're the man. The min. All the jokes about the Jewish angels, all of it is into the massive Calpurnius Piso, Mother of God concept, the Mariam joke. The Canadian member firm sponsored Alexander Bilodeau, who won the first gold medal for Canada on home soil in the 2010 Vancouver Olympics. Medal winners all. KPMG and McLaren, the racing car company, have formed a strategic alliance to apply McLaren applied technologies, math predictive analytics and technology to KPMG's audit and advisory services. Maybe it's not Formula 1 after all, but they can tell you any story they want because they've got LLP status. McLaren 2015 Formula 1 car has the KPMG logo engraved above the pilot seat. Right, let me show you what you find when you go to KPMG in the British Register. Okay, when you look them up and you just enter KPMG, you get 83 companies, 21 directors, as if you should see the numbered PONZI shelves. Sole traders 32, European companies beyond regulation 806. Right, sorry, I should not snigger. Dublin, always we start off with the Irish subsidiary. It's become a habit. They've got Zippo at the bank, Zippo in every one of the descriptors. 1 Stokes Place, St Stephen's Green, Dublin, Irish Saints again. KPMG Services, 1 Stokes Place, Stephen's Green, Dublin, Zippo, 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 Zippo. Shall we have a look at the directors and see if it's an empty box? Oh, it's got directors and they look Irish. Some of them are Kennedys, some of them are Dobbins, I've told you about him and the Coming Home. Some of them are Murphys. They look authentically Irish. They've got O'Connors, Cooks, Woods, but they've got Zippo at the bank, and they've got a cook who served right the way through from 1900 yeah, pre-World War One. I cannot believe what I'm seeing there. So they've got a Noel Stephen Cook who served from 1902 to 2000. Yeah, a very lengthy period of sacrifice to the same company. Right, at least they have directors and they sound Irish. Let's go down till we find one with some cash at the bank, which takes us back to Canada. But the London subsidiary, 15 Canada Square, right next door to Bellamy's Court, where my brother-in-law ran his frauds with the little Italian guy that was disappeared. Yeah, and all of that is in the video that we have made on Dr. Stephen Andrew Hancock's and all of the missing assets that my wife is claiming from my side of the family. Yeah, the massive mansions they have, the links they have to the people who were in the Lord of the Rings movie, and who are all over the frauds in the artistic sector. Okay, so this is 15 Canada Square, London, E14 5GL, right opposite Millwall football ground. Okay, where the fascists are. Cash 44 million, net worth 366 million, assets 923 million in Canada Square, London, which is a real estate creation which is created very recently. Yeah, 687,000 liabilities, so they're solvent, kinda. Net worth 366 million. Let's have a look at the directors. This is human directors. Okay, registered address 15 Canada Square, London, E14 5GL, company number OC 301 540. Hold your hat, your top hat, you know, the financial services top hat jokes. Oh, we're not allowed to scroll down just yet. We're not allowed to scroll down at all. Age 13 years. We need to wait for a bit because they're embarrassed. It is really sick. We need to wait for a bit. Age 13 years. Incorporation date 22nd of the 2nd 2002, when Malcolm Rifkind was still the Foreign Secretary and John Anthony Chilcot was interlocking with Rifkind at Abraxa Systems Limited before they got involved in the Iraq War scandal. No, we're not going to be allowed to scan down it very readily at all. This is called crashing the computer, and it happens when you get to particularly sensitive issues. I might as well turn the camera on me again in my posh suit with my really posh picture of a horse and a man with a sword. Yeah, it is really quite sad that they run the world this way. Let's have another go. Yeah, can you hear the clicking of the mouse? Can you see the clicking of the mouse? Can you see that the pointer is on the scan down point in the corner, and every time you click the mouse, nothing. Oh, no, there we go. That's a kind of psychological triumph. Right then, there are the directors. 10141811480, 1014548201040, director and company secretary timeline. So mysterious numbers are bonded together in a thick blue line. And look at the magnitude of the numbers. How many directors do you think KPMG have globally? It's run by 621 members, it says. This is one subsidiary of how many? I forget what we said, but we'd better not go back in time because it's ever so slow to catch up with it, even if you run the TARDIS scam out of Switzerland in the Dalek joke. Okay, so 2 of those numbers are used in this Canada Square fraud. Look how many are dormant shells. These are supposed to be human directors with birth dates, passports and the capacity to get visas to come into our innocent country, in inverted commas. Right. let's click on there, and then we start going down. There's a very thick blue line. I don't know what the time period is for this. It could take us back to World War I, as we've just seen for the Irish subsidiary with Zippo at the bank at the moment. Okay, so that one is buying in 4 of those partners into an illicit bond, yeah, into an illicit period of service together, and you've got thin little lines that are white lines in that massive fat blue line, yeah, that are changes potentially in, I don't know what they do. I've never seen a structure like this before until I visited it last night, and which made me really sober and really sick that I've been giggling at those massive stock market frauds that the Rothschilds pursue using the Gascoigne names and all of the popular culture names and the cover up of the woman Adele, yeah, a secretarial role. These are directors. Quite a lot of them are dormant, and there are quite a lot of them. There's another thick blue line. There are really quite a lot of them. Quite a lot. I'll tell you what the time span is. The end will be 2015, but one has no idea what the scale is on the x-axis. Look at the numbers on the y. Yeah, that's the mouse clicking. All of those numbers are independent, different numbers. The first number now is 105, and we seem to be sequentially climbing up through that. So let's see how many digits there are. That's millions, that's billions, that's trillions. Yeah, so we've got over 10 trillion directorial numbers. I was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in New Zealand. I would not get anywhere close to getting a mathematics award. It is bewildering and it's quite depressing. There's an interlock. 8 of them or so are interlocking for the same period of service, but none of the numbers are duplicated twice as far as I can see. It's ever so difficult to tell because they're in the trillions. So do you understand why the banks collapsed in 2008 and are now being crashed every second month since then, in a massive toxic debt pool that no one across the world is accountable for? Yeah, it's clicking. That's 2 married into 4. No one's allowed to know which country, which county, who's in charge, what the names are, what the birth dates are, what the visa number is for them to swim around the world or to fly around the world and to take the stash with them in suitcases. A lot of it now is electronic. Three or 4 at a time, and that blue line is engaging only half of a director at each end. Can you see that? Oh no, that the director is associated with one of the axes lines. Yep, so it's the grids. It's just amazing. It's so confusing, and I cannot see what the purpose of it is at the moment, but because I've explained the issuance of money and the control of that by all of the corrupted governments and all of their advisors and their betters in the money lending sector and the toxic debt pool running sector, it is just astoundingly bold and not at all brilliant, because it leads to the dismemberment of the global economy by design by the world leaders. And the newspaper editors totally condone it, as do the media leaders, those that do not get the fatal heart attacks or the cancers or the earthquakes. And I hear that this weekend we've had seismic activities in the Himalayas in Nepal. And goodness knows what that means. You got it's impossible even to identify the line and the period of service with one or two of the numbers. It's so confusing and unregulated and chaotic. It is not an accurate way of showing statistics on anything, and because it's unique to this one organisation, nobody's allowed to know what it means. Yeah. And look where we are on the axis. That's where we are on the list of trillion numbers of directors. We have gotten to that point on the y-axis. Yeah, and there, keep watching the camera. So that's that wide. Okay, it's that wide, and we're going down this far. So there's where it is, and there is the magnitude of the page of the numbers. Trillions and trillions of directors for KPMG, one of the big four auditors. So let's just accelerate and watch time pass by. I'm going to draw it back. We're getting now to the first quarter. That's about a quarter of the way down now. Approaching, maybe, if you look on the bright side, which is very, very difficult, that's a third. Can you see the numbers whizzing past? And can you see how the blocks are all lined up near to our present day period? That means that the money is being relocated, the blocks are getting thinner and thinner and thinner, and all of a sudden we're down to the bottom of the list. And that takes us right into the current day, April 2015, with the thinnest blue line of the lot of them for the last transaction. Okay, and that is Director ID 1428875168640, and the start date for all of that scandal was 2002, when Malcolm Rifkind was still the Foreign Secretary in the UK and George W. Bush was still having a laugh at the demonisation of Islam after they had brought down the Twin Towers to take control of the whole of the terrorist world, with them as the terrorists, and entirely in control of the world's issuance of money, which is entirely to them and their friends. Here's 2008, right in the middle. Can you see how commonplace the fraud is now, and for how long the corrupted directors and secretaries serve. They've been through their apprenticeships that span all of the early periods of the noughties and those thick blue lines, and the whole thing is totally shameful, but at least we have now got down to some names. Sharma, Hunt, Woodland, Grondale, Byrne, Sewer, Sidhu. Yeah, current members: KPMG Holdings Limited, that's Mr. KPMG Holdings Limited, appointed 2010. KPMG, Mr. KPMG United Kingdom PLC, Krupela Desai, Lee David Jagger. That could be Mick's friends in the Rolling Stones religious fraud. Mary K. Fuller, Michaelakis Michael, Adrian, Arian, Sotang, Hannah Louise Elizabeth Twist, the Dickensian elites writers jokes, Miss Jane Hurst, the football player covers, Helen Clinton, Miss Catherine Helen Clinton, Neary's genuinely Irish, maybe, Martina Marie, Mary Campbell, Miss Rachel Mary Campbell. Nothing sinister, there are hundreds of them. Okay, God only knows how they're allowed to get away with numbering people in their trillions. Let's just keep going until we see something of note. Remember that this is one of 80 registered in the UK. Argyles, King Coles, Burnses, Bostocks like Hugh in the neuroscience sector, all of them right up close to the hub of London, to the massive fraud that is the Welcome Building and Euston Road, where the terror occurs to cover their financial sins. Nicholson's again, Morgan's again, Sykes's again, Hambleton's, Cheadle's, Stirling's, Brown's, Nimmo's, Cruikshank's, Linton. That's not Tony Blair, it's not Linton Blair, and it's not Richmond Palace. Nobody's allowed to know who they are. Scott's, Morgan's, Wilson's, Monaghan's, Haig's, Ben Nathan's, Crowther's, Turner's, McCorkadale's, famous name in the Borders, Skinner's, working men rugby players at Blackheath. Oh no, I'm giggling, sorry. Williams's, the Williamses are in the Aylesbury Rugby Club set. They fish in Sutherland, they're in pharma, and blessedly they do not work in pharma for the big privatised companies, they work in generics allegedly. Mr. David Martin defrawned. Mr. David Paul Gascoigne, back to the original theme this morning. David Robertson, David Rowlands, David Stephen Valerie, David Victor Matthews, David Yip, Derek McDermott, Christopher Callanan, Duncan McCaskill. Oh, Kenny. Edward William Baker, Ewan West, Fergus Edward Doughty Woodward, Carter Frank Joseph Patrick, Gareth Horner, Ann Horner's wee brother, maybe. Yeah, that's the Ashridge College dynasty, born leisure into tertiary education, both sides of the Atlantic. Gareth Williams, the man dead in the bag, covered up by the Polish intel man who talks to me all of the time, is really nice. Quigley rejected my wife's advances, or my wife rejected his advances for Catholicism reasons. Bellamy, Glyn Michael Bellamy, Armitage, Watts, Pestract, Bainbridge, Warrington, Jackson, Harvey, like the rabbits, Gravestock, Bannatyne, that's a sinister one. That is the orchestra sector from Russia that comes to Britain, and they are the joke about Russia's greatest composer, Tchaikovsky. Ian Jeffrey Greaves, the football jokes. Starkey, Lithgow, Jackson again. James Murray, Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. James Peter Osborne, Mr. James Prince, Ledward, Tucker, the professor of pharmacy who bailed out of my friendship after he'd had a laugh. Yeah, massive frauds against the world's people. James Webster March, Jason Parker, Anderson, Hugh Kay, Halls, Dabooz, Grooms, Halsworth, Quentin Bennett, David Kane, David Leach, Milsom, Fox, Kelly, genuinely Irish, Costello. Easy to cover that one up in historic culture if you make some silent movies and you give them an Oscar. Mr. John Kerr, Luke with 2 R's. Mr. John William Alexander Burns, Lovell, Marston. No really big names. There's the Millses again. That could be the McCartneys, the links to the Eastman Kodak empire and Hemel Hempstead and Born Leisure in another interlock. Pierce, Morgan, Hadji, Bannister, Hall, Mackay, the real Mackay, Mr. Kenny, Murdo Mackay, Mr. Kevin, Peter, Moore. Oh, dare not think about the implications of our man Michael being twisted into another massive fraud. Miksha Tadish Firla Kukra, Marcus, Matthews, Theodorus, Gerardus, Wyson. Gallagher's, back to the golf. Matthew man. Yeah, nothing very interesting here. I think I'm gonna bail out. Oh, there's 100 still to go. Lintler, Robinson, Raisbeck, Sturton Davis, Henderson's, Dalgetty Williams, Edmonds, Billington, not BHB but Nicholas Simon, Priestley's, Pratt's, Pratt and Sons, the Blackadder joke, Sanderson's, Spicer, Paul Frederick, Cuff, Luff, Algie Clough. We're right through the whole gamut of dropping the letters and changing the IDs. Paul McCartney. You know, an honest cove from Liverpool perchance, But there are all sorts of allegations about the real McCartney being killed because he wanted to break out of the cabal and let the truth out to his fans. I have no way of knowing whether that's accurate. Rothwell, Abraham, Cotton, Crozier, Davidson, Harford, Ricketts, Aronson, McCarthy, Richard George McCarthy, Hennessy, that's the Champagne movement, Philpott, Fenton, Sharman. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Let's just scan it. I'm very interested in what we see when we get to the bottom, and what the KPMG, there's the two corrupted secretarial institutions. I kind of see the Swifts and the usual laundering suspects. Marples, Miss Marples, Bootses, Philip John Edward Morgan, Powter. Yeah, if it's got to be covered up by the pop singers and the actors and all of the stitch-ups. DeVito's, Scully, Morgenstern, William, Fraser, Cameron, number of employees. Oh, look how it's changing. 2009 569, 2013 11,335, as they sweep all over the globe and into Ireland with genuine looking Irish names. Right then, let's see if there are shares in the equation. Structure. I have fear to look at this one. Oh my god. Latest shareholders equity figure, £419 million. Issued share capital, Zippo. So that comes out of the toxic debt pool, and they give themselves the right to growth that is infinite. You cannot express that in percentage terms. It's infinitely criminal, and we're not allowed to know who does it. That's why they've got the directors numbered in their trillions. Shareholder details have not been filed for KPMG LLP. This is just one of the 80 in Britain, and all of the subsidiary companies are Pension Trust Company Limited. Trust means no tax. Real estate companies all over Europe, so they cannot be regulated, and they are the ultimate parents. It is deviant. It is abuse of the investors and the savers and all of the people that struggle to keep their jobs and worry about retention of their jobs. And I'm talking to my family now about those issues, and it is just not funny. Right then, not many companies there. It's a huge listing of directors. Okay, so let's go back to where we were before, and I'll take you into some of the European listings, and we'll see where else they oh no, sorry, that was in the shareholding sector. Let's go back to that. Or let's look on the structure. Oh, sorry, I've screwed up. think I maybe should open another tab with the same deal on it so we can scan down to company number 2. Okay, so let's do that. KPMG, in we go, and let's get back to the dissection of it. So there's the Irish company at the top. There's the company that we went into in Canada Square. Yeah, KPMG trustees, all of those are in Ireland. Canada Square again. Yeah, Canada Square again. Separate company numbers every time. 600 directors in that last one. 83 companies in all. This is just page 1. Salisbury Square, London. Net worth 121,000. Assets 4 million. Canary Wharf again. Director results, all of them are institutional. KPMG services, no details available. Okay. Page 1. Non-limited companies. These are the ones with John Smith as their CEO. Let's just take a look just in case. Registered address, PO Box 93, Douglas, Isle of Man, the tax haven. Laid back. Can you see the pyramid? Can you see their jokes about the whiteboard leaning against it? Douglas, Isle of Man, where Tiny Rowlands was jailed for a time as a Nazi Hitler youth man before he was released in 1942 to go and run the empire in South Africa. That's gold, diamonds, and eventually virtual products once they had mined everything out. Okay, KPMG, non-limited business, senior executive. Can you guess? Mr. John Smith, branch manager. Title Mr. First name John, last name Smith. The same template to dismember the whole world's prosperity. Okay, so we could have a look at European companies. 806. Rue Victor Hugo, Lons, Cedar. That's kind of like Specsavers. They're hoping that no one will see what they are doing to our world. Rue Hubert Curien, Limoges, Limoges, Cedar, Belgium. Argent, Armentières, Dunkirk. Isn't that funny? Pateau, Général de Gaulle, Immeuble, Le Pascal, Chrétien, Crétil, Cedar. Page 1. 806 European companies. France, 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 France. France, France, Épinal. I think that might be a ski resort. Saint-Nazaire, France. That's 2 pages, okay? All of them, France and Belgium. All of them profiteering epicenters. Sole traders, 32. Very little detail. A German one. No street address, no city, just the postcode. LA. One only can hazard a guess. page 1. Nice, France, that's the elite part down south, just along the coast from Monaco, where all the films are made and they win prizes all the time. France, 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 France. Next page. What have we not done yet? Directors. KPMG Services, all of the companies are called the same. None of them have street addresses or towns. They've just got company numbers. And if these are all associated with share issuance, it's a scandal. It's a scandal already, don't you agree? Structure. Ireland. St Stephen's Green, Dublin to Ireland. Zippo at the bank. Stokes Place. Year of birth unknown. Structure. Dryden Investment Company, no shoulders breakdown. Oh, they've got shareholdings. Yeah, it takes the biscuit. Eurosnacks UK Limited, issued share capital 40,000, huge investment. Sooner Foods Ireland, ownership 100%. Yeah, and it just becomes a randomised numbers game. Oh, there's quite a colourful one. KPMG's Trustees Limited, Iditarod Limited, Epperley Limited, and other. This will get over 100%, one assumes. Issued share capital £3. 4 inputs to that. Oh no, it only adds up to 100%, and the others only have 0.01% ownership. So that's a penny in the pound. Dryden Investment Companies, Saint-Lazare, yeah, the big banks. Brennan Holdings. Brennan is the man that wrote about the diasporas through Odessa, and his books are really informative about the war crimes and the laundering, the involvement of the papacy, the involvement of Intel, and everybody never gets a life because of it. I don't know what else we can look at. It is shocking. There is nothing constructive in anything that any of the businesses do around the world. I don't know where else we can go. Have we done the directors? I think we have. All of them are corporate plants, institutional plants with no birth dates. It's just a pack of lies and a massive theft project. Yeah, and you've got, it's all over Britain. That's Milton Keynes, Northeast 1, JE4, that's Jersey. We've learned that in our earlier forays through Bourne Leisure out of Hemel Hempstead. Okay, Southampton, Aberdeen, Bristol. Yeah, it is sickening, absolutely sickening. And this is directors, and if we look on one of those, have they got the issuance of shareholdings? See if we can find one. There's one, Northeast 1, 3DX. registered address Quayside House, 110 Quayside, Newcastle upon Tyne, Tyne and Wear, NE1 3DX, green for go. I used to get a lift to work with the bank manager from Lloyd's, and he went to Everest but failed to get to the top because they're puggled, and God gives them a conscience eventually. No, this has not got shareholdings, it's just got John Smith at the boss at the cabal. So let's just scan down and see if there are any in strange places further down the list. Canada Square, we've got Ireland, we've got them cornered already. And every one of those is KPMG services, just a different postcode, just different company number, no postcode available. Let's see if they have the right, using that very flimsy presence, to issue their own shares. This one's blocked. Structure. Oh, you got pictures of Paris and Oxford. Pete Marwick, Gordeller, issued share capital 2 quid, no secrets, released. Okay, it is a scandal and a massive theft project. I'm going to stop. And that's the one, Stokes Place, St Stephen's Green, Dublin. We still share the pound with the Irish. Yeah, the issuance of the pound, it's in the hands of that deviant who's on the interlocks with the Olympic commissioning boards. I can't mind his name. He's the sweaty one when he appears on Squawk Box. Let's have a look at the directors here, because there are hundreds of them. And this is the original joke about Mary's wick and her impregnation, yeah, by the Son of God. It is sick. And they've got genuine Irish names with a little bit of French romanticism, like Darcy added in. O'Rourke, yeah, O'Connor, Joseph Kennedy, Joe Kennedy, yeah, he's the bootlegger in the earlier dynasty, Mr. Henry Joseph Saville. And this is the name that they dropped early on in the history of the company, yet to replace it with the KP Calpurnius Piso initials. I'm going to stop. It's making me feel sick.